dotted around on the edges. It is an occupied territory. It has been called an outdoor prison. And that is the reality of the situation. It is not free. There are not.
Welcome back to the Kyle McCullers Show. I am your host, Kyle McCullers, and we've got a packed episode with some heavy-hitting headlines you won't want to miss. First up, we're diving into the latest from the Piers Show, where they tackle the Israel-Hamas war at the end of the show, and I want to be playing parts of that clip. And it's the debate over whether Israel cutting power to Gaza is justified. There's a lot of emotion behind this one, and I've got some thoughts. Then we're going to talk about Elon Musk, who's under fire yet again, this time with Tesla dealerships literally going up in flames and Cybertrucks being attacked. And of course, Trump is coming to his aid, so I want to go over that. And then finally, the Republican Party is heating up after Trump recently called to primary Republican Representative Thomas Massie of Kentucky for opposing the for opposing against the continuing resolution bill to not shut down the government. And this move is causing some serious backlash in the GOP, and we need to break it down for what it means moving forward. So I'm going to be doing a live stream format today. I'm going to be jumping from topic to topic. So it's going to be no filters, no fluff, just real talk. So grab your coffee, settle in. Let's get started.
Point, really, because the point I was making is about Israel cutting off the power into Gaza. I actually did not know the full answer to the questions I was raising, is the honest truth, which is, well, how much power in Gaza comes from Israel? It turns out more than 50% does. It also turns out that pretty much from the start of the war, so October 2023, the power has been cut by 90%. And my question when they cut the rest off this week was, if you think about how this ends, all this, and hopefully sooner rather than later, and you get to a stage where you can move forward and you try and rebuild things and everything else. The point I was making was, Dave, and I'm interested in what you say to this, do the Palestinians not just have to have the basic same fundamental rights to things like their own power, their own water, their own food supplies, all these kind of things, without Israel having the ability, ironically, the power, if you like, to just yank it whenever they feel like it? And I know the history, because I've studied it. I know that this was the deal that was done, and they claim it back from the Palestinian Authority, from taxation on the Palestinians and so on. I know all that. But it just seems to me, until the Palestinians can honestly say to themselves, we have the same human rights as our Israeli neighbors, you're never actually going to get rid of the problem.
Well, as I said to you on Twitter,
before Dave responds, okay, Piers Morgan said something on X, on Twitter. Dave Rubin responded, and then this girl came to Piers Morgan's defense, and she's a straight up commie. She's a socialist. She's a communist. She believes the rich should pay for everybody. She believes in the whole utopia. So we already know what she's going to say. But before Dave says something, I want to say something. I think what gets lost is that Israel is at war. Israel is at war. And when you're at war, you do what it takes to win. And I think it's utterly ridiculous to talk about, how Israel shouldn't do this or can't do this and how they fight a war. They're at war. If America was at war, we would do anything it took to win the war. Period. And when it comes to war, that's what happens. And I think we lose sight of that. And yeah, it's a tragedy that children die. It's a tragedy that civilians die, but that's what happens in war. That's why you don't want to go to war, because the toll of war is devastating. But when you're in war, you do what it takes to win. And if you have leverage over your enemies, you use the leverage. So this bleeding heart and all this other stuff for Palestinians and whatever it is, I understand because you're looking at it from a tragic situation with civilians in the line of fire. That's with any people, but we really have to separate the empathy for the civilians and and the empathy for Israel, who's at war with a terrorist organization in a country who literally wants to eradicate their race from the earth.
I think my exact quote was, Piers, respectfully, I think you're confused about the issue, but what you just said there was actually closer to the truth, because you're right. It's the Palestinians who have to look at the Palestinians and figure out what they want. Remember, Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2005. There is not one Jew in Gaza until October basically 9th of 2023, after October 7th. They wanted not only nothing to do with Gaza, they wanted to leave them to self-rule. They said, we'll take they had 8,000 citizens there. They said, we'll take everyone out. Hitler would have loved the place, totally Judenrein, right? And they said, do what you want. There was no blockade. By the way, no one ever talks, and I did tweet this to you, no one ever talks about how Egypt has a border with Gaza. Gaza was part of Egypt before 1967.
Dave brings up a great point about the wall from Egypt that sets of Egypt on Egypt's in Gaza's border. Walls work, guys. Walls, trenches, barbed wire, they work.
Egypt's wall, maybe your guys can pull it up when you post this, the wall that Egypt built with Gaza is massive and has trenches and barbed wire and cement and everything else. Israel, I've been there to the kibbutzes that were largely destroyed. They had a simple chain link fence like you might have around a dog park. Yes, I completely agree. In 2005 and for the last 15 plus years, almost 20 years, they have had a chance using the same exact set of border there that is the same beach as Tel Aviv to build the most prosperous, wonderful society where all of their oil-rich Arab brothers could have put in tons of money and they could have spit in the eye of the Jews and said, look what we have built in Gaza. Instead, they took everything, not only just the money, they took literally the pipes that were bringing them water to turn it into rockets.
Okay, but Dave, I would say this to you. Okay, but let me say this though. I would say this. I hear you. Right, and I've read a lot of this in the last 24 hours to just inform myself really about the reality of all this. But look at the situation in Gaza where you have 50% of the population's under 18, so 50% are kids. We know that many, many thousands, let's not get into the exact number because everyone always goes, it's not that, it's this. But we know many, many thousands of children have died, innocent children.
See, and this is the straw man. This is the straw man. This is him bringing up the point, bringing up the war and saying, you know, do you think that they shouldn't turn off the power in war? Dave, who had a brilliant response and was making the point that is the point, which is all of the money, all of the aid that went to Palestine in Gaza was converted into a war machine to kill the Jews. It was not built for infrastructure, for their people and their citizenry. It wasn't there to rebuild their economy. They took all the supplies from around the world and they created a war machine to kill Jews. And then Piers is like, I hear all that, I know all that, but what about the children that are dying? And that's the misnomer. That's the straw man. There wouldn't be any children dying if the Palestinians hadn't have taken all the aid that the world powers and all the money that the world powers gave to them to rebuild. It's like you handing over money to a bank robber and expecting him not to go rob more banks. It's foolishness. It's arrogance on our part to believe that our money and our resources are just going to be used in a moral way when these people in their morality believe that another people don't deserve to live. And so it's ridiculous they're hell bent on revenge. They're hell bent on eradicating the Jewish race. They're not gonna just be neighbors with the Jews. They don't have any desire. And I think that's the arrogance of the West. The West thinks that everyone else thinks like them, just like Piers. Piers is having that problem where he can't reconcile that these people don't think like us. They don't think like the West. They don't operate like the West. And they only respond to force. They only respond to power. And their whole entire worldview is to eradicate a whole people. And so, yeah, it's a tragedy that children are dead, and it's a tragedy that that's what war is, but that has nothing to do with the issue here. And I think Piers just completely misses the point.
You've got nothing to do with this. And they've died. Turning off the power into Gaza, given the state of Gaza right now.
Release the hostages, Piers. That's the answer. Release the hostages. Piers, if your wife got killed and your daughter was kidnapped, release the hostages, and then I'll come on this show and tell you Israel should leave them alone.
Facts. Exactly right. Exactly right. Surrender. Release the hostages and surrender. That's what you have to do. We're in a war and we're going to win. You want your power back on? Build your own infrastructure and get your own power. Otherwise, give us our people back and surrender.
I agree. Every hostage should be released. And Hamas are a despicable terror organization. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the innocent children, more of whom will now die.
That has nothing to do with Israel. That has to do with the Palestinians. That has nothing to do with Israel. The opposing force doesn't care about your children. They care about fighting and winning the war. Ukraine and Russia. Russia doesn't care about killing Ukrainian children at all. They're in a war. It's tragic. It's terrible. It's horrible. We all know that. But to sit there and say, oh, well, Russia shouldn't use a particular weapon because it might kill more civilians and therefore that's terrible. That's never going to happen. If America had to go to war with, let's say, China, we're gonna use everything at our disposal, and we're not going to have any care, because when you're looking at existentialism, meaning if we don't win this war, our country goes away. There's no line that won't be crossed. That's why Trump is so big on de-escalating things with Russia, because of all-out nuclear war. That is a real threat in this world. It's a real threat because everybody knows, I'm going to say the dirty secret out loud. Everybody knows that there is no lines in war. The most powerful win. If you have a nuclear arsenal, that's the trump card, no pun intended. And every single country who has nuclear arms will use them if pushed, because that's human nature. So to sit here and say, oh, well, look at all these children dying, isn't Israel so bad? No. They are in an existential war for their existence. There is no means in which to criticize. And it's so hypocritical. If Britain, if America hadn't come to Britain in France's aid in World War II, there would be no Britain, there would be no France. Fact. And I guarantee you, Winston Churchill and everybody else there would have done whatever they could and used whatever they could to stop that from happening. So I think it's utterly ridiculous and hypocritical for this to even be a line of a talking point. And I think it is a horrible straw man.
Inevitably, because power's been completely cut off in Gaza, which led me just to ask, I don't think Israel should have that power to do that.
Israel doesn't want that power.
You're 100% correct.
Israel shouldn't feed them or give them electricity or anything else.
Allow me, please.
Where are the Egyptians? Where are the Qataris? Where is the members of the Jordanians?
Hang on, don't talk at once. All right, Emily,
okay.
Emily, then Brianna, then Joe.
Okay. You keep going to the root of the problem. You said, why does Israel have the power, which you said is not 100% of the power over their electricity, but let's say over 50% in controlling their, electricity? The question is, well, why do they have that power? Israel, by the way, including the United States and many Arab countries, have sent billions of dollars to Gaza, as Ruben said, to build infrastructure, hospitals, schools, and instead they build terror tunnels and they build rocket launchers in nurseries and Hamas
Israel
HQs
bombed the
under
infrastructure.
Al-Shifa Hospital.
Israel has
and they spent,
reportedly
Brianna,
bombed the power plant.
Because
Yeah, Brianna's such a commie. She skips the whole argument, right? If we gave billions of dollars, and I'm saying we, America, and then obviously Israel and other powers, gave Gaza billions of dollars to rebuild after the last conflict and for aid, and instead of using that money to do those things, de-escalate, come to the table, negotiate, get a peace, rebuild Gaza, instead of doing that before October 7th, right, of 2022, or was it 2023? I can't remember what year it was because it's been so long. These wars have been going on for so long. Instead of taking that money and rebuilding your country, you took it and you created a war machine. And Brianna wants to use the fact that after the fact, after they use the money to buy RPGs and build tunnels and commit an attack on Israel's soil, then the response of Israel is to bomb them. And she acts like that's justification. It's insanity. It's like someone fighting back from being attacked and blaming the attacker or blaming the victim for hurting the attacker. That's how crazy these people are. These people right here, these commies are. All right? Everything she's saying and Dave's saying, 100% correct.
As I just said,
the
infrastructure is used as terrorist
HQs.
HQs. Terrorist HQs are built, not infrastructures.
Okay.
Even their hospital is
so
corrupted.
now Israel can
Even their
call
hospitals are Hamas
critical
headquarters.
Infrastructure.
So do me a favor with Gaza's infrastructure.
I'm glad
they
you
don't
said
have
that,
critical
Emily, because
infrastructure.
it
They build
illustrates
terror
what Israel
tunnels.
has done.
Brianna,
Which is
you're hysterical.
repeatedly
Let me
call
speak. Save your hysterics for
critical
later.
infrastructure
Oh my
in
gosh,
Gaza,
say your point.
terrorist
Critical
activity,
infrastructure.
bomb it, kill people, and then
Because
after the
it
fact
is.
do these investigations
Because
that don't
their
get covered on
infrastructure
shows like
has
these that
terrorist
demonstrate
activity.
that there was absolutely
Because
no
their
proof that
infrastructure
there were
has terror
terrorists or
activities.
Hamas
There's
in
plenty
the
of proof.
institutions that got
Go
bombed.
to Al-Shifa Hospital.
When Gaza,
Al-Shifa
when the
Hospital,
IDF
terrorist
dug up
HQ.
You know when girls really get into arguments and they start clapping like Emily, you know they're mad.
Baby nursery.
All right, listen, it's hard to hear you when you're both talking. Hang on.
This is the trigger.
Hang on, ladies. I can't hear either of you because you're both talking at the same time. So I would simply say, well, Joe, I'll come to you, Joe, but my point remains that on a humanitarian level, given the scale of child death in this war in Gaza, it seems to me inhumane. And yes, I accept Hamas are inhumane. I accept the keeping of any hostages is inhumane.
Stop talking about the children like, and this is the thing. Like, you say inhumane. War is inhumane. Okay? Because war is about killing humans until someone quits. That's what war is. War is about how much death can you endure before you surrender. That's what war is. It's inhumane. So it's utterly ridiculous to use children in Gaza. What about the children in Israel? What about the kids in Israel that got killed? So it's one of those things where it's like, why do you think that the Palestinian children is such a morally superior argument to make Israel not do what it needs to do in order to win? Because I guarantee you, if the tides were turned, if the tables were turned, the UK wouldn't be saying the same thing that Piers would be saying. Piers would be on the other side. And it's easy to sit back and say, well, that's horrible, and this is horrible, and they're horrible. But then if you put it into your perspective and you say, well, let's say Britain is going to be toast. Let's say Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis and Iran and Iraq coordinated a massive effort to take over Britain. I guarantee you that he would not be singing the same song. And I think it's utterly ridiculous and it's infuriating when you do that kind of stuff. We can say that it's terrible, and we know it's terrible. It's obvious. No one wants to see kids being killed on either side. But to use that as some sort of reason for Israel not to do what it needs to do to win the war is ridiculous. Those are casualties. There's always casualties in war.
But it can also, but all these things.
My tweet. Can I respond?
Hang on, don't all start again. But it can also be inhumane to turn off all the power and to stop the fuel going in now, which will only lead to more children dying. That's my point, Joe.
Piers, how do they prevent the power being turned off?
Piers,
What
I'm
can
so
the
sorry.
Hang
Palestinians
on.
You
I
raised
don't
this
remember you
segment.
two
What
being
can
called
Hamas
Joe.
do?
Piers.
Brianna,
Hang on.
please.
I'm so sorry, Piers, but you
Emily,
raised this talking about my tweet. Am I able to talk about what my tweet actually said?
Yes, I'll give you the last word, Brianna. Let me just take 20 seconds.
Sure.
On October 7th, the governing entity of Gaza went to war against Israel. Give me another example in the history of war where the attacked country needs to pay for electricity for the country that declared war on them.
Okay.
Mic drop. Joe's exactly right. And I don't agree with Joe in a lot of things. He has TDS and, and Emily's holding up a zero because they're right. Name me a country ever in history who had leverage over their enemy and didn't use it to win the war, especially when that enemy attacked them first. It's not even, it's not just illogical, it's immoral. And Piers knows it. If that happened to Britain, Britain would use every leverage at its disposal to prevent its existential death. And for him to act like all these children, although tragic it may be, means that that more children are going to die because over half the populations are children. We shouldn't do it. Palestinians shouldn't be taking aid in trying to kill Jews. They shouldn't have attacked the Jewish state. And now, unfortunately, the government that they chose, the government the Palestinians chose and voted to go to war, and now they're losing and they're suffering the repercussions. So Joe's absolutely right.
There's no obligation that Israel should have to pay and supply the electricity to the country that went to war against them.
Yeah, have Zelensky
can I address
give the
that
Russians
exact
foreign
point?
aid while you're at it.
Wait, Piers, please, can I please address that exact point Joe
Yes,
Walker's
you
point?
can.
'Cause I think
Quickly.
this is
We've got to
an
wrap up
important point
quickly,
of misdirection. So for one, the mythology that Israel pays for the power is wrong. I think it's about $11 million that Gazans pay to Israel
Which
for
they get
that
back.
power that is taken out of tax collections from.
No one said Israel pays for the power. So that's a misdirection. That's a straw man again. That's a lie. It's a red herring. Israel provides the power. The Palestinians give them money. Israel provides the power. They have the power. It's not about the money. Israel's not paying money for their power. Israel's providing the power. So that's incorrect, and that's a lie.
From the people of
Correct.
Gaza. Two, Israel has repeatedly bombed the power infrastructure.
Brianna, after the fact of being attacked, they didn't get an agreement, supply power, get paid from tax dollars from Palestine, and then bomb them. They bombed the infrastructure as a military location or as a military tactic in order to hurt the terrorists that have attacked them on their soil. So again, it's like talking to a German Shepherd. I don't understand. These people are just they just I don't understand how they get on panels because they just have a perspective, but they don't know anything, and it's frustrating.
Long before October 7th, over the last decades, to prevent Gaza from being able to be independent in its power, exactly so it can use collective punishment, which isn't just immoral, as you put it, Piers, but is in fact a war crime. And three, the idea that there was a withdrawal from Gaza in 2005, and therefore it was independent and could thrive and grow and do what it wanted to do, but it chose not to become the next Dubai or whatever it is that Trump said, is a misnomer. Were Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto free just because Nazis withdraw and stood around on the edges? It is an occupied territory.
This is
It has been called
You're utterly
an
ridiculous. There
outdoor
was no
prison.
blockade or
And
anything
that
else.
is the reality of the
They
situation.
said
It
we
is
want
not
nothing
free.
to do
There are
with
not
you
permeable
people.
borders.
Brianna,
It
when
is the
you
most
go off
policed
on
and surveilled
Egypt,
population
then maybe
on the
you'll talk
planet.
about how
And
honest
that
you
is
are. Or
why
the
there
Palestinian
was
state known as Jordan.
there
Look,
was the attack on October 7th.
Okay, everyone, look, the bottom line is, in the Oslo Accords, Israel said they would supply, and they weren't paying for this privilege, they got the money back, they would supply water, power, and fuel, right? And they said they would do
Just
that.
like you have to do with prisoners.
They made a conscious decision to stop that because, and the argument obviously is because we're at war. Hamas want to kill us. I get that, but there's still a humanitarian aspect to this, as there is in any war, and it seems to me to be an inhumane
Piers,
move
I would say,
to do
Piers,
this.
would
And
you
it's
call
also
for
a breach
Egypt
of the
to open up
hostage
their borders?
exchange
Well,
Sinai is
let
probably
Dave
10
respond to that.
I would say a good question, rather than relitigating all of that, would be that Sinai, which Israel used to control, by the way, and gave up for peace with Egypt, Sinai is about 10 times larger than Israel, not just Gaza, about Israel itself. I've been to Sinai. Almost nobody lives there. Egypt has a border. How
Well,
about
the Zionists
Egypt
should go
open
there
up the
then.
border and let
What's
all
the
the
problem?
Gazans in? Why not?
Okay, if everyone's just moving from their ancestral homes, let's let the Zionists move there then. The problem is, if we really cared about the hostages, you wouldn't have
Israel is
Netanyahu
the
flagrantly
ancestral home
disregarding
of the
these
Jewish
ceasefire
people.
agreements and imperiling the lives of hostages, which is causing so many hostage families to protest Netanyahu.
Okay.
Because his goals and his administration's goals have been clear, which is to get rid of Gaza, to take over Gaza, to ethnically cleanse Gaza, to drive them out of the territory, just like Dave Rubin is describing doing right now. And as a consequence, they don't care about the hostage lives more than they do securing that territory.
So why
and
not
that is
move
not
them to
only
the
a
safety
war
of
crime.
Sinai?
All right,
It's not
look,
only
we're
a
gonna
war
have to-
crime
we're gonna have to
do
time out, I'm
collective
afraid.
punishment.
I have a question for
It
you.
We're
is
going to have to
deeply
wrap.
So you're never going to have agreement on polar opposites. And Brianna is a total left. She calls herself independent, but she is a communist, and that's why she has no party. She's a total commie socialist, Bernie Sanders acolyte, who's a total commie, and wants to take all the money from. She wants to redistribute the wealth and have all. She's a commie, and so she's an anti-Israel communist who is never gonna agree and thinks basically the Jewish people need to be gone, or blame them for everything. I really think that this isn't a Jew-Palestinian thing. I really think that this is a straight-up war thing. And if they want to go to war and they want to fight a war, then they'll fight a war, right? Israel is our allies. Israel will always be America's ally. Honestly, without Israel, we have no military strong alliances over in the Middle East. You could say Saudi, but Saudi kind of plays both sides a little bit. And Israel is really, our number one ally over there. And we need Israel for a lot of things, militarily, intelligence, etc., that are important. And so we're not going to see Israel and America ever break ties, I don't think, anywhere in the near future. It would have to be some drastic situation that would happen, and that's not happening. But the point of the matter is that when we're talking about war, you can talk to your blue in the face. But until you have people on the ground dying, everything changes. And war is costly. It costs lives of soldiers. It costs lives of civilians. Everyone's affected. War is a inhumane thing, of course. But we can't take casualties and tragedies and juxtapose them against the efforts of the war, and that's not even we can't judge that war. We're not in that situation. And just like the Ukraine and the Russian war, right? We can talk to her blue in the face, but those people are the ones that are dying, and they're the ones that have to pay that price. And so I think it's ridiculous from someone like a Piers Morgan, who I greatly respect and I hope to be on his show one day, to have that kind of straw man. And I think what happens is you allow your empathy to get in the way of the actual reality of things. And we can have empathy. We can have we can say, like, two things can be true at once, right? We can have empathy for Palestinians dying and their children dying, and at the same time, they're in a war and they're suffering the consequences of a government going to war and losing. And so, yeah, I think that's what that is. But very quickly, I want to move on to Elon Musk and what's going on over there. First, I want to show you kind of what's going on with a specific post here. Let me go to my ISO cam. And right here
is on fire. Gosh. Oh my gosh. A Tesla Cybertruck is on fire. All right. There's a fleet of Cybertrucks right now. Unbelievable. Seattle fire on the scene.
So you gotta get off the property.
Breaking news. I'm sorry?
Get off the property.
All right, you've got dozens of firefighters now putting out flames on the Cybertruck. Absolutely insane. Look, you can still see flames right underneath the Cybertruck. Okay. Vehicle that caught fire this 8 right now. Other incidents of vandalism and arson at Tesla dealerships, at Tesla charging stations. One can only suspect that this is arson. Some hot spots. Flames underneath the passenger side wheel right now that firefighters are.
This tweet says multiple Democrat NGOs have coordinated attacks on Tesla dealership staff and vehicles. Last night, a number of Cybertrucks were torched in Seattle. Democrats becoming increasingly more desperate and violent. I don't know if it's true that it's Democrat NGOs. You know, I don't, who knows? No one really has that kind of information right now. But Elon Musk retweeted this, and you know, I wanted to show you guys also what Trump was saying about this. And I'm actually going to move this over here. To Republicans, conservatives, and all great Americans, Elon Musk is putting it on the line in order to help our nation, and he's doing a fantastic job. But the radical left lunatics, as they often do, are trying to illegally and collusively boycott Tesla, one of the world's great automakers, and Elon's baby, in order to attack and do harm to Elon and everything he stands for. They tried to do it to me at the 2024 presidential ballot box, but how did that work out? In any event, I'm going to buy a brand new Tesla tomorrow morning as a show of confidence and support for Elon Musk, a truly great American. Why should he be punished for putting his tremendous skills to work in order to help make America great again? This is something that I really wanted to address, because there's a lot of people, I think, in the media, just for political points, I believe lie about Elon on purpose. And I bet you they own Teslas. And that's what's so funny. Elon Musk is the richest man in the world because he provides goods and services that better the world. And he is the richest man in the world because he is the greatest innovator of our time, hands down. There is a magnetism of Donald J. Trump has, that he's able to bring together some of the greatest minds in the world, some of the greatest entrepreneurs ever to live. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg. You can say whatever you want about them personally and anything. But there's something about Donald Trump that attracts powerful people, that attracts brilliant people. And he has something about him, and it's something that is unique to him, and everyone that tries to copy fails. And Elon Musk, he's right, is putting it on the line. He put it on the line when he endorsed Trump. He put it on the line when he donated to the campaign. He put it on the line when he campaigned. He donated on the line now coming into office. And I'm sure they've had many conversations where Donald J. Trump, President Trump, was saying, listen, man, you know what this is going to do. And of course, Elon, I don't really think I think he knew and he saw, but obviously it's different it's different in seeing it and thinking it and actually being in it. I don't see Elon wavering because I think Trump is there and he's going to support him. But I do think that the people need to understand exactly what Elon's doing. And if you don't, go to my videos. You'll find one about Elon. I've got one about what Doge is actually doing, and I go through the actual paperwork. They're upgrading the systems, the software and the systems of the government because they're archaic. because instead of investing in the infrastructure in the government, they just take the money and they spend it. That's what the donor class and the politicians have been doing. Elon is sacrificing his time, his energy, his money, and his image in order to make America great again by going through the government and finding the corruption and rooting it out and sanitizing it. And he even said on Joe Rogan, I'm not going to play the clip, but you can go to the most recent interview with Joe Rogan, and I'm sure you can find the clip if you Google it or something. But Elon said if he were to find all the corruption, they would probably kill him, right? He really believes that. And that's the thing is, say what you want about Elon, but Elon is not cutting jobs to cut jobs. He's not stopping services to stop services. He's finding true waste of money and putting a stop to it. He's finding true fraud and putting a stop to it. And he's finding true machinations and automations and individuals who are truly abusing the system and putting a stop to it. And he's doing that with Donald Trump's say-so and backing. And he's not just, it's not like unilaterally he gets to just do whatever he wants. He has to bring it to the cabinet. He has to bring it to the president. He's not elected. He doesn't have a cabinet position. He's an advisor, and he's a special appointed. And remember, it's temporary. It's only until next June, next summer, 2026, when Doge is done. And so they have a mandate, and they're going to do everything they can in the next year and a half before the primary or before the midterms to get everything they want to get done. But Elon is the Henry Ford of our time, and we really need to appreciate how brilliant that man is and exactly what he's giving up in order to help the American people. Alrighty. So I want to go to the last. Where are my bookmarks? Am I going to my book? I don't think I'm going to my books. I'm just going to the trending right now because it's #1 trending right now, Massie. And I wanted to go to what Donald Trump said about this. So Donald Trump is saying, thank you to the House Freedom Caucus for just delivering a big blow to the radical left Democrats and their desire to raise taxes and shut our country down. They hate America and all it stands for. That's why they allowed millions of criminals to invade our nation. Sometimes it takes great courage to do the right thing. Congressman Thomas Massie of beautiful Kentucky is an automatic no vote on just about everything, despite the fact that he has always voted for continuing resolutions in the past. He should be primaried, and I will lead the charge against him. He's just another grandstander who's too much trouble and not worth the fight. He reminds me of Liz Cheney before her historic record-breaking loss. The people of Kentucky won't stand for it. Just watch. Do I have any takers? Anyway, thank you again to the House Freedom Caucus for a very important vote. We need to buy some time in order to make America great again, greater than ever before. Unite and win. The reason why Trump is saying this is for two reasons. Number one, he wants the Republicans to unite under him. He wants no breaking of the ranks, just like the Democrats. And see, the thing is that the Democrats are going to stand shoulder to shoulder because they hate Trump. So the uniting factor is whatever Trump wants, we'll say no to. And so that's what they're uniting behind. They're not uniting behind one person. They're uniting. In a way, Donald Trump, right? They're not uniting behind him. They're uniting against him. So although the Democrats don't have any leadership that they're all united behind, they all have TDS, so it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. They're going to say no to Trump because they don't want any wins for Trump. On the other side, the Republicans have always had a hard time rallying behind leadership because there was too many dogs, too many alphas that wanted to run the show. Donald Trump is the closest thing that the Republican Party has ever had to uniting behind one man since Ronald Reagan. And I think that, that really bothers Trump when someone breaks ranks because he takes it as a personal affront. And so, of course, he's going to attack and bully, and he's going to try to do whatever it takes to get his way. I think the second thing that for him, though, is not just about the breaking of ranks, but I think the fact that he feels like they need time, right? They like Elon and Doge and Trump's team. They need time to get everything in place so that they can deliver to the American people the agenda that they're trying to provide to make sure the tariffs and all the other things are in place and get and can do what it takes. And if Thomas Massie is the one person who is preventing that from happening, preventing him from being able to get the time him and his administration needs, of course he's going to turn on that. Now, should he have done it publicly? I don't know. I think that's just his style. I think he's going to do that. Is Thomas Massie someone who can bully? I don't know. I don't know him. I don't know him well enough to say how I think he'll react or what it is. It sounds like he's not the bullied kind of type. But I think that there's a very high level of things being played right now that we don't really see or understand, and we're not going to see or understand until later. And the reason I say this is because there was a meeting with Trump. Well, Trump made an announcement. He made an announcement that, how did it go? Which event was it? I know it had to do with the Taiwan company who makes the chips and how those chips were coming, like that company was coming here and they're going to build plants in Arizona, and now we're going to get a 40% market share in something that we had like maybe 3%. And I think Intel was the only one that was doing it. And this company virtually has like 100%. And it's what it is, it's a twofold deal. They're bringing this here, right? But what it is they're getting stronger ties with America, which gives them more protection from China. Okay, that's one. The other thing, though, is there was something else that he had announced. It wasn't just the tariffs, because the tariffs is what brought the company, but there was something else, and I can't remember. And I was just thinking to myself, that's why he did that. That's why he announced that first. That's why he's doing this, because he already had this deal, and then now because he has this deal. And so everything is connected, right? And we're not seeing the big picture because it's not for us to see it. It's not for his enemies to see it. But Trump has a plan, and he's executing the plan, and he has a strategy, and it's working, and it's winning. And if he's saying we need more time, then give the man more time. And I don't know if it's true. If it's true that Thomas Massie has always voted for continuing resolutions and now he won't vote now, that's a problem. There's a deeper problem there. Now, I just wanted to really quickly cover the reaction on Twitter. You know, it seems to me that, yes, you're all wrong, right? Thomas Massie is one of the best in Congress, and it's not even close. Thomas Massie, one of the only members of Congress not owned by the Israel lobby, who actually represents America First, now under attack by Trump. Thomas Massie has not taken a dime from Israel. It cost him his family. Now Trump is trying to cost him his seat. I stand with Thomas Massie. I choose Massie any day over any other current politician combined. Trump just called for Thomas Massie's primary, big eyes. I support Congressman Massie. I feel like even Benny, like this is how I know it's bad, because even Benny, I'm sorry, I thought I was sharing my screen, guys. Even Benny Johnson, can I zoom this in? Yeah. Even Benny Johnson is saying President Trump says Congressman Thomas Massie should be primary and he will personally lead the charge. That's just a statement, but from a personality like Benny, for him not to say anything personal or not to say anything from his mind, he's just reporting the fact. That to me says like he's not really in support of this, right? MAGA loves Thomas Massie. Someone thinks that they could control my voting card by threatening my re-election. Guess what? Doesn't work on me. 3 times I've had a challenger who tried to be more MAGA than me. None busted 25% because my constituents preserve transparency and principles over blind allegiance. That's Thomas Massie. Trump is compromised big time. Thomas Massie's not. If you don't understand that yet, you were probably retarded. For once, I wish Trump would attack members of Congress from the right instead of attacking from the left. Horrible take. Massie is one of the most consistent conservatives in Congress, and this sickens me, and I voted for Trump, but I didn't vote for this. Yeah, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. That's not going to be the 2021 Massie and the Christmas goes unfathomably hard. It's going to be very, very difficult for that to happen. So I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, I think that hopefully this dies down. I hope that the CR gets passed. I hope that Thomas Massie and Trump, come back together strong. MAGA, we don't want to fracture. We don't want to splinter. We don't want to have infighting, because that's the quickest way to defeat. A divided house can't fall. But let me know what you think. Let me know right in the comments. And I hope this blessed you guys today. Take care, and hope to see you on the next episode.